And good to see everybody and welcome. This is our last class of mindfulness, building the habit of presence. And today, as you can see, we're going to focus on compassion and self-compassion. Also a little bit about continuing the practice on your own. And I'll mention that we're going to have a booster session, like a seventh class. I haven't scheduled it yet, but it would be on the same day, Thursday, it's at 12 noon. Sometime in April. So I'll send out the invite probably by the end of the week. So hopefully that will work for you. And that'll just sort of be like as a follow-up session, just to help see where people are doing, what kinds of successes or challenges might be having. But again, the whole point is to sort of like keep it going. What can you do to keep your practice going? So get into that in a minute. So we're going to do quite a bit today. And so let's take a mindful minute to pause and help to bring ourselves here and now. Try to let go of the busyness of the morning and all that's probably swirling around the mind and your to-do list and all those sorts of things. So just take a position, whatever that means, whether sitting or standing, to just be in a relaxed body. You can close your eyes if you like, but you don't have to. But if you want to, go right ahead. And this is 3 breaths for a pause. So first breath is really just feeling the breath itself. So really take a nice, full, deep, mindful breath and really feel the sensations of the breath as you breathe in and out completely. And then the second breath is being aware of the body. So bringing your attention down into the body, maybe quickly scanning, maybe letting go of any obvious tension that's there, and just noticing how things are in the body. Just sort of being curious, checking it out. And also maybe asking yourself, what does the body need? And if you can do and help that, feel free to go ahead and do that. It might be having a little water or stretching or something of that nature, but just being aware of what the body needs. And then the third full, deep, mindful breath is to remember to be kind to ourselves. And so to take a moment to send ourselves this sort of message of, hey, slow down. This is a moment for yourself. You're doing just fine, even though it might be like lots of challenges today, but just sort of give yourself a pat on the back and an appreciation for all the things that you're getting done, but also for taking a moment to just not get things done and to just be as we go into this class today. But so the third breath, this kindness breath, can be, you can send yourself any form of kindness that you might need, any kind of message of care and compassion. And that's kind of that's a good segue into the whole class. So you can open your eyes if you've had them closed, and that's 3 breaths. I use that one here because, of course, it brings together the breath, the body, but also this idea of making sure we care for the self. And we do some things. And as you can see, the whole class is really a lot about that. But sometimes we struggle with self-compassion. Sometimes we don't pay as much attention or give ourselves credit where credit is due, or the inner critic can come up. Those are those old tapes. And so a lot of what we've done in the past classes have sort of led to some of this, where we have insight into some of those conditioned thinking patterns. The emotions that come up, and as many of us may be caregivers, that may be part of the personality too. We may be more comfortable, many of us are, to take care of others, and it's not as easy to take care of ourselves. So anyway, that's a lot of the emphasis of the class today. So here we are, the sixth class. I know it always goes so quick for me. I'm sure it did for you. I hope you found the class overall, all the different classes helpful. And if you couldn't attend them all, certainly understand. And hopefully you were able to either review the slides or do the practices. I mean, that's the main part of it, is to establish a habit, right? To do the practices and maybe watch some of the recordings if you couldn't get to the class. So I will have an evaluation, which I'll send to you hopefully in the next day or two. I'd love for you to give me any feedback formally through that, or in any other form you might like. So this class has been done a bunch of times. I always tweak it a little bit. I always add a little something or take something out, or some of you have taken it more than once, I know. So always open to your feedback. It helps me figure out what works, especially for busy people in our healthcare system. So let's pause and let me ask you at this point, how's it going? Last week, you could have done a number of things. You really kind of had a choice of the formal practice, but you could have also done mindful driving or pauses and breaks, mindful meetings, communications. We did spend some time on talking about active listening and mindful listening. So there's a lot there. So just, if anybody would like to share a little bit, either you can feel free to, or small enough to, if you'd like to speak up, that'd be great. Or if you'd prefer to use the chat, that's fine too. But let me know how's it going, and whatever, formal practice, informal practice, establishing a routine. Have you got sort of a habit going? In a minute or two, I'll talk and ask you about your plan going forwards. But how was the past week? Anyone? Are you finding it a little bit easier or a little bit more? Is it fitting in a little bit more into the daily routine? Let's put it that way. And if not, I mean, that's fine. It's not easy. I know we're all very busy. So if it's still a bit of a challenge, what are some of the challenges? Maybe we can brainstorm that a little bit. Or what are some of the successes that you might have been having? So here we go. A couple of thoughts. It was easier for me to do mindful pauses during the day. Good. Good. I think that's really important, even though they're not like a formal meditation. If you sprinkle a bunch of mindful, or even one or two mindful pauses during the day, you are, injecting it into your day, and you're reminding yourself to take a little break and to just take the mind offline and to let it rest and reset. That's the whole point. So good. I find morning and at night is a good routine. Good. So it sounds like that's the important point. You got the routine sometimes during the day. So good. It sounds like you're finding what's working for you, your schedule with your work and home schedule. That's the key. Good. I'm incorporating more into my routine in the early morning and at the very end of the day. So same kind of similar practice. Good. Not every day, but more days than not. That's a good point. So, every day is hard. Sometimes our days are just out of control. That's why those little mindful pauses come in handy. But at least shoot for more days than not. I like that way you phrase that. So I think that's the key. If you do it more days than not, you are establishing that habit and routine. Practice mindful communication with colleagues and active listening. Good. Being aware of not trying to plan what I am going to say next can be challenging. Yes. And, that's kind of an artificial way to communicate, not saying anything, but the idea is just to be able to notice that we often are so wrapped up in our own heads, in what we want to say and how we want to say it, and trying to find a place to interject our comment we're not really listening to the other person fully, right? So that's the key, is just what you said there, Roberta. Being aware of that. So you have the choice. And that's what a lot of this is about, is so that we see that we have a choice, even in a micro moment. I've been more cognizant of my stress, even without practicing per se. Good. So, and again, this is all about cognizance. That's a good word, or awareness, noticing, observing. We use a lot of those terms. So stress is a biggie for all of us. At least that's what all the surveys show. And I think we feel that in our day-to-day work lives. And so just being more aware of it, and that whole idea of not having to automatically react with that sort of knee-jerk reaction, but pausing, taking a moment so that we can respond in a more mindful way. Being more mindful while taking the dog for a walk, as opposed to just going out to walk her and go home. Good. Yeah, we have these regular things that we do, whether it's walking the dog or any of those routine activities. That is a great place to do this stuff, so that we're not letting the mind go off on its own and do what it wants to do, sort of like puppies can do. You got to train the puppy, right? You got to train the puppy to be on a leash. You got to train the puppy to not run out into the road, all those kinds of things. So we're doing the same thing with our mind. About 3 weeks in, I found I had developed a habit. Good. I'm now taking time for meditation daily. Great. Wonderful to hear. I almost feel like starting an exercise regimen. That's really a good point, because sometimes our mindfulness practice can lead to other well-being practices, self-care practices. So that's really good. Maybe there's an association there. I went from struggling to make time, this is making me feel really good, for mindfulness, to now feeling very aware if I don't. There's another good way of looking at it. So I feel the same way. Like when I don't do it for a day, and there are days I don't, I notice it. Either I notice it's something that I miss doing out of the regular routine. And sometimes I even notice that if I didn't do it, maybe I'm a little bit more edgy, perhaps, or a little bit more reactive, not as centered. So that awareness then allows me to say, okay, maybe I need to take even just a short break at that point in the day when I notice that. So great. These are excellent comments, and really heartening. I feel good about that, and you should too. Now, if you haven't gotten to that point, if you're feeling like it's still a little bit hard and challenging, it's always challenging. It's never going to be super easy, but establishing the habit is a big part of bringing it into daily life. So I think that's the key. And that's what I'm hearing for a number of you. If you're not quite there yet, the whole point of today's class is do not give yourself a hard time. Rather, just notice and say, okay, here's maybe something I could try. Maybe I could try it at this different time of the day, or maybe I could try sprinkling in a couple of those pauses, or informal routine mindfulness, whatever it is. So make sure you're not giving yourself a hard time and then, kind of making it worse. One more comment. I find it easy to take a complete break, more so than allowing my mind to focus on one task and multitasking and not multitasking. It's either on or off, but I'm trying to do more individual things mindfully. Good. All right. So sounds like you're being more aware of the multitasking, and for you, it's more easy to really take that break, conscious break, and to do whatever it is. It could be a mindful break, but it could be, a break to take, any sort of self-care break, anything that just helps you reset and rejuvenate, right? So good. So thank you all for those comments. And as I said, we'll have another opportunity to gather, but feel free at any point to reach out. Now, I do have to kind of qualify that I'm going away for several weeks starting Saturday, but so I won't be maybe immediately accessible, but I'll be back in April. So, but I'm always, if you have any questions going forward or have any needs or anything that I can help with, and we also have a bunch of things that we do on a regular basis, like the phone meditations, for example, the M Life app or some other app. You can always use those. Those are perfect things to do to supplement and keep it going. So this question, are the practices becoming part of your daily life? What's your plan? So I don't know if you use the plan, but let me just mention, so the kindliness towards ourselves, an essential ingredient. Kindliness plus mindfulness equals kindfulness. So it's really key, and I think I've said this quote before, but it's from Tara Brach, that a key predictor of people being able to do mindfulness on an ongoing, regular, habitual, routine basis is this sense of being kind towards ourselves, not being harsh on ourselves when we don't do what we wanted to do with our practice, for example. And so the whole idea is to give yourself a break and not get down on yourself. Just do the best you can. Even if you lapse for a week or so, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I haven't done any practices because of whatever's been going on in your life, you can start fresh right then and there. So just start over again. And that's all it takes. It's like riding a bike. You really don't lose it. So don't get down on yourselves. Just recommit to the practice and start it up again with some good intention to do something on a regular basis. So I did send you my mindfulness plan. I hope that helped you chart out a little bit your formal practices. Those are really the most important cornerstone. The pauses and the informal practice are a great way to kind of supplement and kind of keep it going, especially when we're really busy. And just to try to figure out, and it sounds like by the comments, a number of you have figured out when's a good time of day, where to do it, and for how long. So hopefully you found that chart a little helpful. And you don't, here I'm just reading this comment, and you don't ever start over per se, you gain something from each attempt. Yes, right, exactly. Yeah, that's the whole point. You learn something every time. It's really an unfolding practice. So yes, good comment there. So today we're going to be talking about loving kindness. Sometimes it's in the traditional classic meditation, it's called metta. You'll hear that sometimes referred to. Sharon Salzberg, this quote is from her in the upper right here. She has a number of good books and a good website, and she does a lot of loving kindness practices. But the quote kind of says it all in terms of what it's about. Loving kindness isn't the same as passion or romantic love, and it's not sappy sentimentality. As I've said, we don't necessarily like or approve of everyone to whom we offer loving kindness. Focusing our attention on inclusion and caring creates powerful connections that challenges the idea of us, them world by offering a way to see everyone as us. And so we'll do this in a minute, but you'll see sometimes it can feel, if you've never done this before, it might feel a little bit artificial, because what we're going to do is we come up with phrases, and these phrases, by the way, can be adapted. You can change them to your liking. But we think these phrases during the meditation, and we sort of think of different people, and we kind of send them these loving kindness, care, and compassion messages. We do that to ourselves too. And it might seem like what good is that really going to do? It's not like an action step that really does something for somebody. I mean, that's really what compassion is about, is the awareness of somebody needing help and then taking an action step to help them. The meditation, of course, is just meditation, but what the research shows is that it helps us create a more fertile environment to do that, so that we will take action, so that we will have this more inclusive attitude, so that we realize that we're not alone, that we're interconnected with everybody. The other link here, which I'll just mention, and you can watch it if you have time, even just that part of it. Shauna Shapiro is a research psychologist, and she's done a number of studies on mindfulness and compassion. And the basic message is that mindfulness practices do enhance compassion. So she found that in her studies. And then in the talk, she goes on to say, well, how does that work? And one of the things, for example, is, well, it helps us to slow down and be more aware of what other people need. And this whole idea of the more we practice, the stronger it gets. So the more we practice compassion practices, the stronger that builds these networks in our brains, and we're more likely to take action and to do something for other people. All right, so let's do the practice, the first practice. I'm going to try to squeeze in a couple of practices today. So the first one is a loving kindness practice, and we'll start. This is based on originally the work of Tara Brach again. There's another one that I have that's Sharon Salzberg. I have some scripts too. If anybody wants any of these, they are, of course, in the, there's links to the actual recordings so that you can do that. But if I do have some, if anybody wants some specific scripts, I can send those to you. Let me know. So this was, she calls it a meta practice with a smile intro. You'll see how this works. So we begin with a sincerity of your intention, knowing it's possible at any moment to awaken your heart. So we find a position, as we always do, that's comfortable, relaxed, and balanced, where we can remain alert, pay attention, but also be comfortable. Maybe taking a few full, deep breaths, if that helps us to relax and settle. Feeling ourselves, our body settle into the chair, letting ourselves relax and be here. With an in-breath, an opening to receive the breath, and with the out-breath, a sense of releasing and letting go. And in your mind's eye, sense an open sky in all directions, and imagine and sense an image of a smile, or even just the curve of a smile spreading across the sky. Sensing the edges of the smile, and with that, a sense of uplifting. And imagine and sense that smile spreading through the mind. And sense the curve of the smile now spreading to your face. So you can actually feel the sense of a smile around the eyes, and of course around your mouth and lips, and the inside of the mouth even. Sensing an open, receptive presence with this sense and the feeling, the felt sense of a smile. And let the smile spread now. Let the smile spread down through the face, letting the face be relaxed and kind of light. Feeling the curve of the smile now through the throat. A sense of openness and receptivity there. Letting it spread to the chest and our heart area. Not to cover over anything, but just to make room for whatever is there. An open receptivity. Letting the shoulders relax and settle down, letting the arms relax, the hands be soft. Feeling the smile in the heart area and letting it spread down into the belly, around the navel area, loosening and opening. And again, spreading all the way down through the pelvic region, base of the spine, sit bones, down the legs, all the way down to your feet. So that we're kind of sensing this whole body and a field of aliveness in the whole body filled with a smile, so that we're receptive, open, vibrant, filled with presence. So in this presence, we'll start the formal loving kindness practice by bringing to mind someone who is very easy to love or care for. Might be someone close to you, obviously, or even a benefactor to you, has given you love and attention or help, or just someone you're grateful to. And take some moments to bring this person that you trust and care about into your mind, into your body, into your heart, just kind of thinking about them. And take a moment to remind yourself to awaken your gratitude for their goodness, how they've shown care, sensing their goodness as they look at you, sensing it through their eyes, their spirit, whatever it is you appreciate, so that you can just sort of feel it in a visceral way, your appreciation. And resting in that awareness, sense whatever blessing you would like to offer to that person. It may be something like this, and I'll give you a few phrases to kind of repeat mentally to yourself. And as we go forward, you can change these phrases, make them your own if you'd like, but we'll start with, may you be safe and healthy. May you have moments of happiness and joy. May you be free from suffering. And may you live with ease and be peaceful. And just kind of resting in those well wishes and care that we're sort of sending out to this person. Noticing where that lands, what that feels like in our own mind and body and heart. And now the next step is including yourself. And this is sometimes not as easy, but including yourself in that. You might even picture yourself sitting with this person together and sending the message to both you and this person at once. May we be safe and healthy. May we have moments of happiness and joy. May we be free of suffering. May we live with ease and peace. So from that place of caring, maybe bringing your awareness to your own life, your own heart, taking some moments to sense your own being. what you appreciate about yourself. You can do this through your own eyes or through another's eyes if that is helpful. And as you sense some appreciation of the life that is right here, offering this same loving kindness blessing to yourself. And again, you can use whatever phrases you like, but just to kind of repeat these, may I be safe and healthy. So you're just kind of directing this towards yourself now. May I have moments of happiness and joy. May I be free from suffering. May I live with ease and peace. And you can certainly feel free to add anything like, may I accept myself just as I am. May I be compassionate towards myself. May I allow myself to give myself what I need, whatever it might arise from your heart. And now we kind of widen the circles, and you can include anyone who comes to mind. This could be anybody in your circle of friends, family, coworkers, all of those people if you like. Sort of imagining them all in whatever form you like, and sending them also these loving kindness messages. May you all be safe and healthy. May you all have moments of happiness and joy. May you all be free from suffering. May you all live with ease and peace. And just resting for a moment in this quality of loving kindness awareness. And just as a final thought, bring your attention in this quality of care and loving kindness to include all living beings, so that you take a moment to hold all beings in your heart, feeling your wish for the well-being for all in this world. I don't know how this comes across, but we'll finish with a sound. When you hear the sound, you can kind of shift out of the meditation and gradually open your eyes and reconnect with the world around you. All right, so thank you for your practice. That was a loving kindness metta practice with a smile from Tara Brock. And I hope you like that. It's different, I know, but it's something to give a try. Though the link is a little different to where we have the meditations on the page, but definitely give it a try. And yeah, let me know what you thought of that. Please feel free to put it something in the chat. So Roberta says, I loved it. Great, thank you. So yeah, what was it like? Feel free to give me a little bit of feedback of how that landed for you. So the next part is the 3 elements of self-compassion. Self-compassion, this is mostly based on the work of Kristin Neff, who's a psychologist, a research psychologist, I think from the University of Texas. She's kind of considered one of the leading researchers in this area, but this particular slide is based on her work. And the 3 elements are these. The first is mindfulness. So I know there's a lot of words here, but the way that I think about this is we need the mindfulness practice. So all that we've been doing so far in this course has helped us develop our mindfulness, right? Insight into what's going on internally, and knowing and realizing that we are sometimes not so self-compassionate. So it's the mindfulness of when we are judging ourselves and critiquing ourselves and having these opinions and commentary, that little chatter that's always going on. So the mindfulness is a key component. The second piece is self-kindness, which we've talked about, but really kind of noticing, are there things that we can be more helpful and supportive to ourselves? And the way that I always think of this is, what would I say to a friend? If a friend was in the exact same circumstances and I was listening to them rather than responding to my own, when we're in the weeds, it's hard to see. That's again where the mindfulness comes in. But when we can think of it perhaps being with somebody else, we can sit back and be a little bit more objective about it. So what would you say to a friend? How would you support a friend? How would you help them with those difficult feelings and the way that they're maybe being hard on themselves? What would you say to them? And notice that and say that to yourself. That's what you need to train. We need to train ourselves to say those things to ourselves. So rather, when the inner critic comes up and we notice that, and maybe we interrupt that thought and that conditioned pattern, we replace it with a message of self-kindness. And the third component is common humanity. Simply the idea that we all are going through this together. Nobody in this world goes through life without any suffering or difficulties, right? We all have our share of it. And so when we're in the midst of it, though, sometimes it feels like it's all happening to just me. Why is this all happening to me? Life is unfair. Why am I going through this? Why is everybody else seemingly having no troubles? So it's that realization that no, everybody at some point is struggling and suffering and going through challenges. And I think again, going back to COVID, that's something we realized, that nobody was immune to what was going on. Yes, there were differences. Some people have talked about it being, we're all in our own different little boats, struggling through this ocean of COVID, of the pandemic. Some boats are very different than other boats, but we're all struggling in some way. We're all trying to keep the boat afloat. So again, this idea that we're not in it alone, and so not in it alone, we can use the support of others, and we can accept and receive and give, of course, but I think the harder part is to accept and ask for support when we need it. So that's sort of self-compassion in a nutshell. These videos here are the first two, as you can see, are by Kristin Neff. You might want to watch them. They're really quick. She explains the three components probably better than I did. And then there's a 2-minute self-compassion tip that is really, I think, very helpful. And then another video from Positive Psychology. So you might, if you get a chance, watch those. I'm going to go through these next two slides really quick because I've got a couple of other things I want to cover. But just so you know they're here, we've practiced how to accept things as they are in the moment in our mindfulness practice, including the world around us, ourselves, others, our internal weather, so that we can try to accept things as they are. But it's not that easy when it comes to self-acceptance. And self-acceptance means that we understand that we're human. It's sort of that same thing as the common humanity, with all our strengths and weaknesses. Self-acceptance does not mean that we're perfect, we're better than others. Accepting ourselves will help become more accepting and less critical of others too. So there are 6 steps here. One is making a commitment. That's very important to work on it. The second is, if there has been trauma in the past, try to assess and work on that. There are different ways to do that, perhaps with a therapist or journaling. There's, if there's significant trauma, I would definitely suggest a therapist. You can certainly use our program, Employee and Family Resources, to get connected to one if that's helpful. 3 is determine your own value system. Take an inventory of what's important, what you believe in. Then use your adult self to correct the negative messages you're sending yourself. Sort of that same idea as self-compassion. Forgive yourself for mistakes and failures, so self-forgiveness, and accept imperfection. No one is perfect. So self-acceptance, I think, is an important ingredient in all this. All right, so the next thing I want to go into and try to do another little practice is giving and receiving compassion. And I like this next practice because it kind of balances both. Like we did in the loving kindness practice, we included somebody else and then we included ourselves. This is a neat little practice in a sense. It's simple. I think it can be done anytime, anywhere. So let's just do it, and you can sort of see what it's like. It's based on the work of Chris Germer, but also Kristin Neff, and it's compassion breathing. It's kind of a balanced breathing in for me, out for you. And you'll see what I mean by that once we get started with it. So take a moment to just settle again. You can close your eyes if you wish, or keep them slightly open if you'd prefer. Tune into the breathing. Allow the breathing to maybe be a little longer and deeper. And just really follow your breath so that you know when you're breathing in, you know when you're breathing out. In and out. Now, focusing mainly on the in-breath, allow the in-breath to be just for you. Energizing, nourishing, and do that for a few cycles. You can also inhale a quality you might need today. Compassion or energy or focus or refreshment or calm. So if there's something you kind of want to add into that quality you need, or just a sense of nourishment and energizing, breathe that in on each in-breath. Do that for a few cycles as you breathe in. Now we'll shift our attention to the out-breath. Notice how the out-breath feels. Sometimes we can notice the ease of exhaling, that sense of resting and relaxing and releasing on each exhale. And as you do this, bring to mind a person or persons you care about. Feel the exhalation, sending ease and well-being outwards with each exhalation to that person or persons. Okay, so on each exhale, send this same kind of care and compassion or quality that they may need, or could be that loving kindness message. May you be well, may you be safe, whatever it is. It's kind of using your own heart messages to send that out to that person on each exhale. And now again, feeling the body breathing in and out, feeling the gentle rhythm as you breathe, and allow every in-breath to be for yourself and every out-breath to be for another. So in for me, out for you. In for me, out for you. So it's sort of balanced, remembering to take care of ourselves, nourish, and fill our own well so that you have something to give as you breathe out, send that out to somebody else. And see if you can let go of any effort is just allow it to be as easy as breathing in as much as you need, allowing it to flow in and gently releasing on the out breath out for another. And so we can now gently release the meditation, the in and the out, just feel the breath itself. And keep the eyes closed for a minute if they are closed, and just notice how it feels to be in your body. Letting your experience of the meditation be just as it was. There's no right or wrong way. It should be just, how is it for you right now after doing that practice? Allowing yourself to be just who you are. And whenever you need a little self-compassion, allow the in-breath to be just for you, and then share with another. Again, I'll try the sound to signal the end. And you can open your eyes if they've been closed and come back to the space around you, reconnect with surroundings, and that's another way to kind of continue with some in for you, out for the other. So again, let me know what that was like. There is something I did want to kind of just mention this, and maybe what we'll do is we'll probably do this in the 7th class in April. Either choiceless awareness or more of an open monitoring of a meditation. What I mean by that is, most of the meditations we've focused in on the breath or the body or loving kindness or self-compassion or stress release or whatever it was. There's been this sort of focus, but there's also more of an open awareness, choiceless awareness, they call it, where you sort of progress from this more focused to a more flexible awareness. So in other words, when a thought comes up, for example, or something comes into your attention, you don't let it go, you stay with it and you pay attention to it and you notice it, you get curious about that. You can always use the breath as an anchor, you can always come back to it, but you just sort of allow yourself to be more open to whatever is happening in your experience. So it's kind of interesting. There is a link there if you want to check that out later. When I send the slides out, you can give that a try. And then a couple of quotes. This is from Sharon Salzberg. I like this quote because, it just sort of puts the whole thing in perspective. Often people think I don't have the right kind of mindfulness or the right level of concentration. Progress is not about levels, it's about frequency. If we can remember to be mindful, if we can add more moments of mindfulness, that makes all the difference. Countless times a day, we lose mindfulness and become lost in reaction or disconnected from what is happening. But the moment we recognize that we've lost mindfulness, we've already regained it. That recognition is its essence, and we can begin again. So, great quote. There's also this from Tara Brach. I was going to hopefully show this. Well, you know what? Maybe what we'll do, I know what we'll do. Let me go through a couple more slides because I want to make sure I get to some of the business at the end, and then I'll show this. And you can watch, if you want to watch it for a few minutes, it's only like 4 minutes. If you have to go, you can go. So I'll go back to that. Quote by Jack Kornfield. This also kind of helps us remember it's not like we need a special meditation skill. So we need to remember that where we are going is here. That any practice is simply a means to open our heart to what is in front of us. Where we already are is the path and the goal. So like that, it's kind of profound, I think. And then I will send this to you, but there's a whole sheet of suggestions for daily practice by Jon Kabat Zinn, but I've highlighted a couple of them here that, noting what's on your mind, And if you're no longer in touch with the breath, without judgment or criticism, just let that be part of your awareness in the moment and feature once again the breath and body center stage in the field of your awareness. So you can do this throughout the day. This is going to be part of your informal practice. Just noticing, like Sharon Salzberg said, when you realize that you're lost in thought and you're not here, you're not aware of this moment, you just come back. That's what this practice is all about. Jumping down to that last bullet, that's kind of what he's talking about. The real meditation is your life and how you inhabit it moment by moment. So that's why the practice of this is important. It's not just like going to the gym, though, but the more we practice it, the more it becomes infused in how we go through life. So, and it does take practice. And the last slide here about this is Ignacy Jan Paderewski was a Polish pianist and composer who became a spokesman for Polish independence way back in like 1919. So kind of an important historical figure, but he said this: if I do not practice one day, I notice it. If I do not practice a second day, the orchestra notices it. And if I do not practice a third day, the world notices it. So keep up your practice, do the best you can. It is important to keep it going. And I'll see you in April for that 7th class. We do have the links are all here. So these take you all to the meditation page, but you've probably got a bunch of ways that you've done it on your own for now. There's a couple more videos and readings you can look into. When I send them out, you'll have these. And then 2 last requests. I will send the evaluation. Please do that. It'll only take about 2 or 3 minutes. I'd love your feedback. And then if you did that mindfulness, attention, and awareness scale at the first class, please do it again. I'll send that out with the email that comes out later. Send it back to me again. And I think you'll want to compare for yourself how you scored now at the end versus the beginning. What I do is I put a group score together, and usually we see a pretty good jump in the mindful awareness and attention. So thank you, namaste, and peace to you all. And I am going to go back to that video. So thank you. Thank you, Roberta, for your comment. So yeah, please, if you have to go, I totally understand, but I'm going to go back. Actually, what I'm going to do is stop the share. And if you want to stay on for this last video, please feel free. If I can find it. It kind of, to me, it brings up the idea of what some of this stuff is really all about. So here we go. Oops, you know what? I forgot to do something. Stop that again, start again. I'll just watch like about maybe 4 to 5 minutes if you have the time. If you don't have the time, you can always watch it on your own later. All right.
As many of you know, on Monday, we had a launching of a pilot program at Walt Whitman High School on mindfulness. And Congressman Tim Ryan and I did some talks, and there were about 900 people that showed up. It was quite a crowd. And so beforehand, I was putting together a talk, to talk about, the value of mindfulness for teens. And I called my son, who was a graduate of Walt Whitman High School, and told him what I was doing. And he himself has been very interested in mindfulness, done some research on it, and it's kind of involved with it in grad school. And after I told him how I was going to talk about how mindfulness could relieve stress and relieve anxiety and, improve executive function and emotional intelligence, I told him my spiel. He said, well, if I was doing it, I would ask them, when's the last time that you really enjoyed the food you were eating? He said, when's the last time you appreciated moments of laughter with a friend? When's the last time you paused and it was raining and you really listened? When you consciously savored the moment. So he said, I'd let them know that mindfulness strengthens our capacity to relax and enjoy our moments, to be happy. So hence you've got what we're going to talk about tonight here. Thank you. You've got what we're going to talk about tonight.
So I'm going to pause it and then move forward, because there's an important part here that she talks about, kind of happiness and what can come of our mindfulness practice.
So we'll talk about this tonight and next week. Really, what's the nature of true happiness? And you might substitute the word well-being or whatever. There's different words we can use. What blocks it and what's the pathway to waking it up to nourishing happiness? And it's an opportunity to really investigate in your own life. You know, is there a kind of mood or a set of moods that you get stuck in and you've not really opened yourself to other possibilities? Because we get habituated. So that the opening inquiry, and I invite you, unless you're listening on a podcast and driving, to close your eyes right now. And this is a reflection on your own happiness, based on your understanding of happiness and well-being. And just to ask yourself, do I experience happiness much? You know, in the last few days, today. And when you're feeling well-being, are you aware of it? Is it something that you're mindful of? And do you have a sense of what gives rise to happiness when you're feeling it? And I'll give you some possibilities that are taken from positive psychology of what might be the cause for you. For some people, it's sense pleasures, and it may be a bunch of them for you, but sense pleasure. We get happy when food does taste good, or when sex feels good, or when we see beauty and feel a sense of wonder. Another way we get happiness or well-being is when we're really immersed in experience, when there's real engagement or flow. For some of us, it's when we feel relatedness with others. For some of us, we feel happy when there's a sense of meaning in our lives. There's perhaps serving or belonging to something larger. And for some, when there's a sense of accomplishment or mastery. What's your sense for yourself? When you're happy, what is it that is the grounds of it? You can keep considering this, and I'll keep going. If you'd like, you can open your eyes. So the Buddha described two kinds of happiness, and I think you'll find if you don't know them, they'll make good sense to you. And one is a worldly kind of happiness. The Pali word is pamoja, and it's a happiness that is correlated with life going our way in some way. So it's, as I mentioned before, it might be happiness because of it's passing because of some pleasure that's going on, or some sense of gratification through the senses, or it might be being with a certain person, or it might be, or happy because something we've really been wanting to accomplish, we pulled it off. So that's called pamoja. That's the worldly happiness. It comes, it goes, and as we might imagine, you know, it can be very wholesome, or it might not be so wholesome. The second kind of happiness, the Pali word sukha, and it's unconditional happiness. Think of it as happiness with no cause, happy for no reason. That's one of the best phrases in the world. Happy for no reason. And that's considered a place of freedom. So we'll start by looking at the first, at pamoja, this happiness that has cause, because it can be wholesome. It can be a helpful thing. It can create an atmosphere for more of that unconditioned happiness if we hold it lightly. Often we don't. But when...
All right, so I'm going to pause it there, and you can listen to the rest of it when I send it out. You can just click on the link there. She goes into that, the two more, she elaborates on the worldly happiness and happiness for no reason. So I just kind of wanted to give you that it's really a great video, kind of a sense of how this can really make a difference more deeply in our lives as well. So let me stop the recording at this point.